with that. Men discuss, men plan. Men come together and think what they want to impose to the people in terms of what is God and what is not God. But God as a deity, God as an idea, God as a deity is a concept, God, doesn't exist. It was concocted, it was created, like the white image of Christ was painted in 1508. But that person that is there in the picture that they put in the church every Sunday, that person has no historical basis. He has no historical origin. That person never walked the earth, that person. That person, the true nature of him is an homosexual uncle of Michelangelo, the painter of him, the one who drew him. He was at best a homosexual. He was not a man who turning water into wine and healing the blind. It's not that man. So that picture is a concept imposed, is an image imposed over the Christian concept. It's what is called the Christian demographics, which are painted to go around now and deceive the people into the Christian concepts of God. And at the same time, putting into understanding is that Christianity, it is when religion it is politically applied, it is Christianity. So whenever you see Christianity manifested, it is a religion politically applied. And it was first concocted as a doctrine of the Byzantine Empire by the Byzantine emperors. So the final stroke came up with the Byzantine emperors in 451 AD, when they decided to make Christianity the political doctrine of the Byzantine Empire, the expansion of the Byzantine Empire. Now, the proper definition of Christianity is that Christianity is a political application of religion. When religion is applied as a political instrument, is Christianity, with its white image, Jesus, with its doctrines, which are mainly anti-African, calling African practices heathen, pagan. Definition of reality is the anti-African. In African religions, I can sit with you here knowing that you are a Mosotho, like a Mopedi, Muwatuat, and then one understand here, Mosotho, when he referred to God, he said Ramasedi. Mopedi, when he referred to God, he said Mudimu. But this one, when he pray his God, he pray this way, and this one, he pray God this way. And this is not issues of interest, or is not an issue that calls for conversion. I never heard that. In my history knowledge, I never heard of a particular tribe have to convert another tribe in order to get it into its own tribal concept of God. It's not African. It's Judeo-Christian attitude that was implanted in the head of Africans, that Africans had to have religious intolerance. But these things now, they are product of Byzantine emperors. When they decided to take over Christianity in 451 AD, then it used to be known as a Catholic Church. Catholic means universal. But after that, they started to call it Roman Catholic Church, Roman Universal Church. Then it get to be divided into branches. Now, whether they become Protestants or they become Methodist, they taken with them the central doctrine and dogma of the Byzantine idea. Because their personification of that deity is white man called Jesus. The history is the same. He's a white man who died and rise up after 3 days and go to heaven. And thereafter, the people who followed him were possessed by a ghost called the Holy Ghost. Because you see, the idea of the resurrection that after 3 days he rise up, no, it's not like that. Even in the Bible, it's not like that, the resurrection. What happened is that after 3 days, people experimented his ghost. And the first of those people was Mary Magdalene. Mary wanted to touch him, but he could not touch him because he was not in essence and in nature. She was in a hallucinatory state, like imaginary figure, which is referred to as a ghost. So Mary experimented with the ghost. Now, from hence it was referred to as the Holy Ghost. So what the disciples experimented 40 days after his crucifixion was the ghost of him, which they said they have now experimented on visions of the Lord for 40 days. Then thereafter he ascended to heaven. That is like thereafter they couldn't see him again. Now this thing, it is existing in Sintu. The elder Credo Mota, when he explained this thing, he said is the Enna, which the root of it is Meina. Enna the self. So the self, which later in death it translates to ghost, it only exists for a temporary reason. It cannot exist for a long time. So for that temporary reason, and also in some other traditions among the Bantu, there will be rituals or practices that is done to keep that Enna, that ghost, which will now, in terms of in traditional healing, that is what is kept in contact with the spirit of the ancestor. Now, then the African traditional healer will be in the same position like an adherent of the Christian faith who claim to be possessed by the Holy Ghost. Then the African traditional healer will also be possessed by the Holy Ghost of his holy ancestors, which is called Nangesinto Amadlos or Idlos. You see, you understand? But the abstract come up with the doctrine of the Christians wasn't coming to harmonize itself with the Africans here. It was coming up in the favor of the doctrine of the slave masters and the colonialists. It was coming up as something that was accompanied like the spiritual soul of the slave master and the colonialist. The slave master and the colonialists, after they subdue with their guns and everything, they have the missionaries to preach this thing to you. So they were not coming to harmonize their thing with the African thing. So now we Africans who have adopted this thing, we also adopted their thinking and their attitude towards our African self. We adopted how they look at the world towards our African self. You see, but those things we find. That is why I tell you that Christianity and paganism, which they call African tradition, Christianity is not opposite with paganism, it is opposite. You get even worse practices in Judeo-Christianity. You get men who commit incest. Abraham will sleep with his sister. You see, you get Moses sprinkling the garments of the priesthood with the blood, like the same thing the Sangomas will do when they consecrate the garments of the spiritual healers of the African tradition. You get the cannibal feast and rituals in Christianity, where the disciples are partaking in the body and the blood of the God, which is also found in the cannibal rituals in the cannibal feast, where they say the Africans were participating in the cannibal feast, where they were eating the body and the blood of the dead gods, which in this case, they are not really eating, but they are taking on the spirit of their dead ancestors. So this is either opposite or Christianity is even worse than African paganism, if there was African paganism. But you see, with African tradition, we do not define ourselves in terms of paganism. So such kind of definitions are not indigenous and they're not African, they're not the self, they're not definition of the self. It's like we say black. The Africans, they never define themselves as blacks. The Africans of Egypt refer to the neighboring Africans of Nubia as the Nubians. Nub meaning gold in hieroglyphic. So one of the color definitions that the Africans have for one another was we are golden people. Others will refer to one another as ebony skinned person. But all those black man and what? In 1635, the English call us the blacks. The Spanish and the Portuguese call us the Negros. You see, all these people had different definitions. The Afrikaners, they came and call us the Kefas. The Muslims, they call us the Kafir. You know, they call us the infidels. Many nations have many other names that they call us. But have you ever taken time to ask, who do we call ourselves? Who do we say we are? You see, it's not what they say we are. We have what we say we are. And in all what we say we are, we don't have pagans, we don't have heathens, we don't have people, some people are going to hell, we don't have some people are going to heaven. Those are not African thinking. Africans, when they did by the land of Kokanya, according to different traditions, some sinners and some righteous people. So it carries, all these things get different meaning down to the idea of God. What Africans say is God and what the Europeans say is God is two different things. We all might refer to them in the upper realm above the head, but clearly our definition of who is there above the head is not the same. You know, in the white thinking is some white man, Father Christmas. You know, some white man with a big white beard there, seated there. We normally see him every festive seasons of December. You see, that is their idea. That man, they draw him even in the Michelangelo's pictures. You know, there is some picture, the Nokia phone have it, of two hands holding one another, hand of God holding Adam's hand. So that picture. Greetings, my name is Abunate Klahemano, also known as Tawara Manuba, the professor, the teacher, grandmaster, the high priest within the faith of Rastafari. Today we'll be reasoning about Rastafari, conception and the misconception within Rastafari. Give thanks.
Give thanks and praise.
Rastafari.
In this man, but how do you tell us?
Rastafari.
One. My name is Murapedi Rastaman. Bless. We are on the subject of Rastafari conception and misconception within Rastafari. Yes, sir. So I've got a question for you, Rasta. The question is, who is Rasta?
Rastafari is Emperor Haile Selassie, and Rastafari is I and I who are called by Emperor Haile Selassie's name.
And what is Rasta?
Rastafari is a livity, is a spiritual, conscious, Afrocentric way of life as a what?
And what is the Rastafari conception?
The Rastafari conception, it is based on the divinity of His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I as the true and living God, or the Supreme Being, the Almighty. This conception of Rastafari, it is a conception of redemption, peace and love, to spread the message of consciousness and freedom, meaning that all people should have the right to use their head. So in this case, the conception of Rastafari is a total liberation to the African people and the rest of humanity.
Okay. And then what are the misconceptions within I and I Rastafari?
The misconceptions within I and I Rastafari, there are many. The misconceptions differs in terms of many effects. They differ in terms of, they have actually different branches of misconceptions. Like you'll have the misconception that one will say, Rasta don't wash. That is a misconception, because Rasta is Haile Selassie, Rasta is clean. You'll have the misconception that Rasta look upon the school as brainwash, Babylon, and indoctrination. That is not true, because His Majesty Haile Selassie established more schools than anything in Ethiopia. The misconceptions will be like, Rasta is like someone who does not follow discipline or control or a particular order, or does not even listen to the parents. That is a misconception. The misconception will be like, to present Rasta as if he's someone without an order. That is a misconception. The misconception will be to try to present His Majesty as a deity than a supreme being. When I say deity, I'm talking about we look upon Him as a religious God. How one look upon His religious God, that His religious God must turn water into wine. While you look in reality, Haile Selassie wasn't here to turn water into wine. Was to encourage people to work, was to bring about development, to take away poverty, to take away ignorance. His Majesty declared that the greatest enemies of mankind in this time is ignorance, disease, and poverty. He didn't say it's a hell, it's Satan, or devil, or Pope, or devil, or all this. So this becomes misconception. The misconception we develop is that the Pope is the devil. That, I believe, is a misconception, in a sense that you look at His Majesty's personal diplomacy. His Majesty in 1972, he visited the Vatican. He stayed by the Vatican for 3 days. And after he visited the Pope donated some X amount of money and built a school in Ethiopia as a result of the trip of His Majesty there, as part of his personal diplomacy. So we lack diplomacy. We will rather constantly look at the Pope as the Pope is the devil, the Pope is the devil. Even if you have a different type of Pope will come. I mean, first of all, the history of the Pope. The first three Pope Victor, Pope Melchiades, these first three popes were African popes.
And the first popes?
The first three popes,
yes,
were Africans. Yes. The first pope to have a residence in the Vatican, Pope Victor, was an African pope. You must understand that the early church fathers were African. The early writers of the church, like St. Augustine, he was an African from North Africa, who wrote the rule and the law that is governing the bishops and the monks today in the churches, like the Orthodox churches, the Coptic churches, even the Catholic Christianity. They draw a lot from the teachings of those early teachers. Saint Anthony from Egypt, from North Africa. He was not a European. So now, majority of those people were not necessarily wicked in a way. So as a result, the whole lot of misconception. We'll have the misconception that the system is our enemy. When you see the police, you have to be holding your zone and start to wave at the police. Then the police come back and beat you and arrest you and take you your 500 rand in order to have you out. You have to pay the bail, and the bail is always 500 rand or 300 rand. So those are misconceptions. Those are misconceptions that surround I and I in this time. So they are broad, even within Rastafari, that the misconception that I and I as Rasta we keep. Like for instance, you will have a Rasta who said, Rasta is Nyabingi, Nyabingi is Rasta. You have to be Nyabingi to be Rasta. That's a misconception. Rastafari is broad, Nyabingi is just one aspect of Rastafari. So the whole lot of misconception that is within I and I, that when we look at how Haile Selassie look at things, and when we look at how we look at things, there's a narrow way that we look at things. So this is just but a few of the misconceptions that I can point out, as these are the misconceptions within Rastafari, that we misconceive the conception of Rastafari. What is it about? His Majesty, in his words, he doesn't tell us that he is here to take us to heaven. His Majesty said he's here ever since he ascended the throne of Ethiopia. He's been always constantly working to lead us towards progress and development. He's leading us to development and progress, not to heaven or somewhere, but progress and development on earth. Because the conception of Rastafari is that we are going to view heaven on earth, not heaven and earth. Heaven on earth. That we're going to create a heavenly